Hi, Zach Reiser here. First off, sorry for the delay in reviews. I've been going through a lot of pedalboard changes and my board has been totally ripped apart, but I wanted to review this guy so much I decided to put together a random collection of pedals. So today I'm going to be jumping into the very interesting Electro Harmonix Hog 2. It has a lot to offer, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Here is my bass's dry tone Dingwall ABZ 6-string on both pickups. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple things that you should know about the Hog 2, and then I'm going to go just through a bunch of my favorite settings. Now, I usually would program presets, but I want to actually dial in the sounds on the pedal so you can really see where the sound is coming from. Okay, so first off, the difference between the dry output signal and the original signal. So the dry output signal is basically just a buffered through. It sounds almost identical to my normal signal. So here's with the pedal bypassed. Here's with it on. So almost identical. Now, the original signal is actually a synthesized version of your unity pitch. So it's just got a little bit different transient attack on the front of the note. Now, the thing that you need to know about this, though, is that most of the expression controls, the envelope, and the filter do not affect the dry output. So if you want to do freeze gliss, for instance, and you don't want to hear what you're playing, you have to use original signal. Or if you want to do a whammy bend on the original pitch, you have to use the original slider, not the dry output slider. But if you want to use this as a pitch shifting harmony pedal, like getting an octave or a fifth, then I would recommend using the dry output with the harmony rather than the original with the harmony, because you're going to get something more similar to your actual instrument. So let's demonstrate that now. So let's say that we wanted to use, we wanted to get the classic like root and fifth harmony setting. So I'm going to put on the dry output and the fifth up. So this is dry output and fifth up. And this is, I'm going to go to my neck pickup. Now the same setting, but with the original signal instead of the dry output. I actually love the way that the synthesized sound sounds, so I actually almost never use the dry output. I really treat this pedal more as a synthesizing pedal than I do as a harmonizing pedal. I have my Eventide H9s to do some more traditional harmonizing stuff, but for the rest of the video I am going to basically not use the dry signal because it's just not as interesting. So this is a little bit of root and octave. There's a lot of that upper end jangliness that's kind of part of just the way the Hog works, but you can kind of tame that a bit by rolling the filter back. So if I roll the filter all the way down, it goes almost totally low passed. So if I roll just a little bit down, you get rid of some of that jangly top end. Etc. Okay? Let's try for fun, let's do like a power chord. So we got root, fifth, and octave in there. The tracking on the Hog is second to none of anything I've played with so far in terms of speed and kind of the feel of the tracking. It feels like you're right in time with your playing. Tracks chords pretty decently as well, so power chords, something a little bit denser like a minor 7, something a lot denser like a major 7. So you start getting a little bit of that funkiness when you add some denser harmonies, but you can still get some pretty clear funky licks. So for instance, without the Hog on, run through a lot more of these sliders than some of my other settings, but one other one I want to show just by itself is the octave down, because a lot of people are always curious what a digital octaver is going to sound like. So let's get into some of my favorite things about the Hog besides just the fact that it has cool harmony sliders. Almost worth the price of the pedal to me alone is this envelope section. So let's talk about it. So this is just a slow attack. So without the envelope on, into a little bit of reverb, it sounds like this. But now with this slow attack, now this is subtle. You can make this much more extreme by rolling it further down like this. Put a compressor back on, it'll hold my dynamics a little longer. Okay, a little bit slower, or faster attack, sorry. So it allows you to do these automatic volume swells if you want, but the way I actually use it almost all the time is I just barely roll the attack off to take the transient or the sharp attack of my picking sound, so I get more of this synthesized kind of soloing texture. So let me give you an example. Without the Hog on, play a line like this. Similar line with the Hog with this slow attack. Instead of a compressor, let's run a little bit of overdrive into it. Really, really cool effect. So you also can do something like this, where you can take you can put a bunch of upper harmonies in here. So let's put like an up octave, up 2 octaves, up 3 octaves, okay, maybe even up 4, which if you don't have the envelope turned on can be pretty harsh. So it'll sound like this. All these upper octave things kind of get in your way and jangle a little bit. But turn on that envelope. Put this one down. There we go. Put my dry signal on a little bit too. Turning the distortion off. High harmonies slowly fading in behind my dry signal. Another very amazing feature, of course, of the Hog is the expression modes. So let's go back to our just simple, I'm going to turn the envelope off, just a simple 5th harmony here. And now I have it on octave bend. So now you essentially have a whammy pedal. As I said, the dry output does not get affected by basically any of the expression modes except for the filter. So if you want to do a traditional whammy, meaning just your unison up an octave, you have to use the original signal. The dry output has no effect with expression. Now, what's cool about this though, is let's say you have a 5th on with your dry output, and then you slide the harmony up an octave. Your dry output doesn't move, so now you go from a 5th up to an octave and a 5th. So for instance, if I'm playing a line, the dry isn't moving, whereas if you use the original, it's sliding with you. And the whammy works incredibly well, even with chords. Let's try that with the octave up rather than the 5th up. Very cool. So that's octave bend. I don't ever use step bend. It's the same thing, but it's just a whole step. So instead of moving an octave, it moves you 1 step. Volume is basically, it acts like a volume pedal. I don't use this too much either, but really quick, it basically just allows you to swell in the whole Hog signal This could be kind of cool if you use your dry output, because it it doesn't affect your dry output, but it does affect all your harmony signals. So if I turn on a bunch of harmony here, and then I play a chord, I can slide in that harmony behind the dry signal. It's a cool effect. All right, now I'm trying to move quick because I want to get to this next guy, which is, of course, the amazing freeze gliss. I'm going to turn the expression on reverse because it's easier for me to control the gliss that way, but you can use it either way. And I'm going to put a little bit of a slow attack on here as well. So this is no gliss or anything. This is just a unison. But the freeze gliss allows me to freeze a chord. It'll sustain infinitely. And then I can quickly chop to another chord like this. Okay. Go back to the original. So this is me moving the expression pedal really, really quickly, but if I go slow, it glissandos. What's really cool is to run this into other things. So for instance, let's run this freeze into a chorus on the Strymon Mobius, and let's go to a slightly bigger, we'll go to a tape delay. How about that? So here is without the glissando. Okay, and now let's freeze this, and let's play around with some of these chordal ideas again. Awesome. All right, let's have a little more fun. Let's do some freeze gliss, but let's put in some harmonies. You can also do single notes. Freeze gliss into a chorus, into a tape delay on the Eventide. All right, now, the one other expression setting that is very surprisingly good is the filter. So let's take just the original signal here, and let's grab a big synth sound. So I'm using the Boss OC2 purely wet into the a gated fuzz setting on the Aftershock. That sounds like this. And now my foot is going to control the filter cutoff. I'm going to crank the resonance up a little bit here, and this is surprisingly wet. I was blown away by the sound of the filter on the Hog 2 when I got it. I was not expecting it to sound like that. Another cool example of the filter is to use some harmonies. Let's crank a bunch of harmonies in here. Okay, and now let's play with filtering those harmonies. I'm going to put my dry signal in so I have a clean dry signal the whole time. So let's try it. I'll put a little bit of reverb on. Very neat. I don't use the filter a lot, but it is good enough. I wanted to show it. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to run through just a couple of my favorite sounds on here that I haven't already gone through. Let's take the original out, and let's go with just an octave up. Okay. And now I'm going to turn on a feature I haven't used yet, which is this Spectral Gate button. And this basically focuses which frequency in your overall signal it wants to pick out and use as the guiding frequency here. So it kind of filters out all the excess harmonies and gives you a cleaner sounding, more direct kind of sine wave-like sound, which leads to some very cool synth sounding lines. So let's try just octave up with Spectral Gate on and a little bit of slow attack. Almost flute-like. Yet again, I can slide it up an octave if I want. Let's put a little bit of an octave and a fifth in there too, and now my synth flute sound is even a little bit more synthy. The sliders are set up to be very similar to a B3 tone wheel organ. So let's go with a little bit of a B3 sound. Now, I'm going to turn the Spectral Gate off just as an example. So let's crank up a couple kind of classic sounding B3-esque harmonies here. Now, this is what a lot of people might start with when they use for their organ setup here. And this sounds pretty good. But it's not too organy to me. But if you turn on the Spectral Gate, magically you switch into organ mode. And if you want to get even closer to an organ, crank up some high harmonies, which sounds awful. But put on a really quick decay on those high harmonies, and now magically you have your key click. And then for fun, put on a rotary effect on my Strymon Mobius, and now we're really getting into more organ world. Slow down the rotary sound. So you could change which slides you have up. For instance, you could turn up a little bit more of that upper second octave if you wanted. You could turn down the fifths a little bit. This might get you more into that kind of rock organ sound. So this is more of a rockish organ. Yet again, the Spectral Gate is really important. If you turn the Spectral Gate off, it still sounds good, but it doesn't sound as organ-like as this. Turn on a big reverb, turn off all the fifths. Just use octaves, so 3, 4, 2, and 1, and down 1. Take the Spectral Gate off, and you get pseudo kind of church organ vibe. So I've gone through the envelope section, touched on the filters, hopefully showed you what a good amount of the harmonies sound like and some of the expression settings. This pedal has so much to offer. I am running out of time and I still haven't really gotten to touch much beyond the surface. But I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back soon with more gear reviews and performance videos. Thanks for watching and please subscribe.